Okay, in this video I'm going to cover the crawler mode in Domain Ronin. This is probably the mode that you'll use most often, and it's what you'll use to crawl websites, single websites or a group of websites. Okay, so I'll just cover the settings that relate to the crawler mode. There's quite a few, so we'll just go over them all first. So I'll just go to the settings tab, and then we're on the crawler tab, sub-tab here. Okay, so you can see the settings on this page that relate to crawler mode. The settings that are in metrics and proxy also can relate to crawler mode, so we'll just briefly touch on those as well, but I'll go over these first. So your network timeout, this is by default set to 30 seconds. Domain Ronin will just report a timeout event if it hasn't received a response within the 30 seconds. So if there's a problem, connecting to a site that you're trying to crawl, if the site's down or something and Domain Ronin hasn't received a response within 30 seconds, then a timeout will be reported. The next is the limit crawling by. So if you have a bunch of seeds that you want to crawl, so a bunch of websites that you want to crawl, and they're large websites, but you only want to crawl 500 pages or something from each website, then you would configure this to 500. So it would go to seed number 1 in your list and it would look at 500 pages, seed number 2, 500 pages, seed number 3, 500 pages, and so on through your list. If you set this to 0, that means it's unlimited, so it will just crawl in as deep as it can, or it'll crawl as many pages as it can. The link search depth, this is the depth of links that it will crawl on a single domain. So if you tell Domain Ronin to go to the root domain, it will gather all of the links that are within that page, and that is level 1, and it will go through those links to the next page, which is level 2. It will grab all of those links, and then it will go down to level 3 and grab all those links, and level 4, and so on until it gets down to level 10. 10 is the limit, but generally 10, you're going to grab a lot of domains and a lot of data if you do get down to a depth of 10. So we've just set that as the limit, but yeah, you're going to be able to crawl a large amount of data using that limit. Okay, so I'll just go to the threads settings. So the web crawler, you can set this to however much you like. 100, 200 threads, it doesn't really matter. It does relate to how much memory that Domain Ronin will actually use. So if you have a nice beefy server that you're running Domain Ronin on, you can set this as high as you want, but yeah, it will relate to the amount of memory that Domain Ronin is using. The memory limits by gigabytes, this here will you can set this to the maximum amount of memory that you want Domain Ronin to use. So as an example, if you've got a VPS that has 8 gig of RAM and you've set up Domain Ronin to run on there and you're going to bed or something, you don't want Domain Ronin just to crawl for as long as it can and chew up all of the memory on your VPS, because you're going to come back the next day or whenever, and your VPS has crashed or something and you've lost the whole crawl, that type of thing. So you won't actually lose all the data, because Domain Ronin has a feature where it's actually recording all of the data out to a Excel file on the fly. So it does that, I think it's every 5 minutes it will update the file, so you won't actually lose all the data that you crawl. But in any case, we don't want the server to become unresponsive, so we've created a limit here for the amount of memory that it can use. Silent mode, this is a feature you may or may not use. What it actually does is when you enable silent mode and you kick off a job, you won't see any data being pulled into the tables. You'll see that the counters will will be moving, and that's how you can tell that the job's running, but you won't see any data being used. And the reason we've done this is to try and help reduce the amount of resources that are being used, so the amount of memory and the CPU that's being used on your server or on your desktop or wherever you're running Domain Ronin. For crawler mode, it might be something if you want to crawl for as long as you can, and then you just, once it crawls finished, export it out to a file. So that's that. If you want Domain Ronin to only crawl and find certain types of domains, so certain TLDs or CC TLDs, then by default it will find any of them. But if you only want .coms and .net domains to be found, or to be for Domain Ronin to respond with those, then you select them here. Alternatively, if you also want Domain Ronin to only find certain domains that aren't within this list, you can just populate them into this box in a comma separated format. So as an example, .be, what else isn't there, .ie, and so on. So that, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. That's how that would work there. But yeah, by default, I just normally leave it getting all of them, but it depends on what your needs are for the crawl that you're doing. The preferred encoding down here, you don't need to, well, it's just the different types of encoding for importing URLs. So as an example, when you're, say if you're using Scrapebox and you scrape a whole lot of seeds, you export them, you may need to set Scrapebox to export in UTF-8 encoding so that you can then import them into Domain Ronin. I won't go into the full types of encoding, you can look them up on Google if you want to. If one's not working for you, then try the other. If you're still having problems, then just contact us and we'll help you out. Okay, so that's it for this tab. It's fairly straightforward, I think. When you're crawling, you can pull in metrics at the same time. Generally, because Moz restricts you with the amount of data that you can pull from a free account, I disable Moz when I'm crawling, and I'll just have PageRank and Majestic data enabled. Then once I've finished the crawl, I'll pick, all of the domains out that I want to then go and check in Moz. So it might be all of the TF TrustFlow 20 domains that have 10 referring domains or more, and I'll then go and use metrics mode and I'll pull in the Moz data for those. The proxy configuration, that's covered, this screen is actually covered in the proxy settings video. So I've gone over in that video how you actually use the proxies for when crawling. The proxies on this page are only used for crawling, they're not used for metrics mode or any of the other modes. So yeah, they're only used for crawling, so watch that video to understand how to enable the different types of proxies that you can use. But if you want to crawl Wikipedia or some of the large government sites or whatever, you need to have the use proxies enabled, and you need to have a decent set of proxies to be able to do that. So that's it for the settings, pretty straightforward. So I'll just quickly kick off a job. So I won't be using proxies for this job, so I'll just make sure to disable those, and I'm going to use a single URL to crawl. You can use a bunch of URLs or you can use a single URL. So I'm going to crawl a single URL. Whoops. So I just had silent mode enabled, and you would have noticed that nothing appeared in here or in here. So I just disabled that, and you can see that the seed is now there. The remain on domain option, if you want Domain Ronin to only stay within your seed domains and not to follow links that are going off the domain to other websites, then you need to have this selected. I normally use this for all of my crawling. If you have this disabled, and you put in the seed and you start crawling, it will go off, and you know, it might go to Twitter and Wikipedia and wherever, and it could get stuck on those sites. Domain Ronin could, and then you could be crawling you know, domains that aren't actually relevant to your niche, and won't be finding domains that you know that you really want. So I'll just leave that selected as on. Crawler threads I've got set to 100, depth of 10, unlimited pages, and I'll just leave the rest as is. And we click on start. So we can see here that the counters are moving, the time's moving, and some domains are starting to be pulled into Domain Ronin. So the counter up here, this is the pages checked, so this is the amount of pages that are being crawled by Domain Ronin at the moment. That will jump quite quickly. The domains found, this is the amount of domains that Domain Ronin has actually found on these pages, and these are the domains that it needs to be checked to see if they're available or not. The domains checked, they're the ones that have actually been processed by the availability checker. So Domain Ronin has grabbed a domain from this list, it's sent it off to its Whois server, and it's retrieved a response and interpreted it, and can determine whether it's available or not. If it is available, then you'll see it appear down here, and it will also add it to this this queue here, well, this amount of domains here, so the domains available count. Down here we can see that the domains that have been found to be available are listed, and the metrics are also being pulled in for them. So we've got our trust flow, our citation flow, the citation flow / trust flow ratio, the referring domains, which is from Majestic, the external backlinks, which is from Majestic, and the page rank. As I've shown in the metrics mode, these columns can be filtered on the fly, which is quite a handy feature to have. As I was also saying, a feature that Domain Ronin has is where you have your Domain Ronin application folder on your system, on your server or your desktop. Every 5 minutes there'll be an Excel file that will update with this data that's within this table. So, you know, if you're you don't have to wait till the end of a crawl to be able to start analysing the data somewhere else if you like. The data is already present for you either in this table or in that Excel file. You can actually export data as you're still crawling as well, so you can save that to wherever you like. You can export in Excel format or CSV format as well. Okay, so we've found 460 odd domains so far to be available from this amount. As you can see here, it's stopped crawling at this stage. Sometimes it will just stop crawling, and it will, if there's a big amount of found domains that it needs to process, it will use its resources to try and get this list processed, because at the end of the day we just want to have available domains in our list, so we don't need to be constantly crawling to you know, using up all the resources, etc. So I think that's it for now. It's the main part of Domain Ronin is the crawling side of things. We've tested other crawlers. I've been crawling for a few years now, and this is just as fast as any of the other crawlers and can find just as many domains. But the stronger part of Domain Ronin is where it can has the flexibility to be able to find any type of domain, so the CCTLDs, etc., that are supported, and how quickly it can actually process a large amount of domains. You're not really limited to how deep you can crawl either, or how long you can crawl, or how many pages. Some of the other web-based crawlers have limits because, you know, they've got servers that they host themselves and they need to maintain the resources on. So yeah, you're not really limited to that. One thing to monitor on your system is the memory usage of Domain Ronin. Crawling can use up quite a bit of memory, so you just need to make sure that Domain Ronin is not going to chew up all the memory on your environment so that it becomes unresponsive for other work that you're doing at the same time. So that's it for now. I'll end this video here. If you have any questions, just let us know and we'll be happy to help you out.